Unlike most beveled edge sharpening, where there's a predetermined angle that's ideal for any surface, sharpening a convex edge, there is no ideal consistent angle for sharpening the whole thing. It depends a lot on the existing edge geometry. If you have a really skinny blade, you might lay the spine of the blade almost flat on the surface. Conversely, with a very thick blade, you might have to lift it up quite a bit. For example, with this 2x4, you have to lift it up almost to a 45-degree angle to get that edge down on the surface. Obviously, this is an exaggerated example, but again, pay attention to the geometry of the particular blade you're working with. In my experience, convex sharpening is a little bit more forgiving because it's a continuous cradle around the curve of the blade. It's a little bit more forgiving of angles than beveled edges, where the angle has to pretty much match the established or desired angle of the edge. But one way to kind of figure out if you're doing it right is the marker test. Take a marker, it doesn't have to be a permanent marker, and make a really thick stripe along the edge, all the way down to the edge, and a little bit up onto the shoulder as well. Don't worry, by the time we're done, all this marker is going to be polished right off this blade. Now, as you're drawing back, if it's too shallow, and you draw along too shallow, you can see that it lifts the trailing edge up off the abrasive. And at that point, all it's doing is polishing this upper edge of the curve, but it's not actually contacting the edge itself. However, when the angle's correct, the edge just comes in contact with the surface. When you have the angle too shallow, you notice that the marker is removed from the upper shoulder of the surface, not from the edge itself. When you have the angle correct, you'll notice that the marker is just removed from the edge and not from farther up on the blade.